7 Stoic Rules to focus on yourself and stay silent. Build your life, now Stoicism. There was once a young craftsman, always watching himself in a mirror he believed others held up. Every morning he woke, his first thought, how will they see me today? He polished his tools, chose the shinest cloak, practiced his lines, anything so the audience would nod. But at night alone he felt hollow. Not because the audience rejected him, but because he no longer knew himself. You, yes you, are living that craftsman's life. You observe your own footsteps, waiting for a mistake. You edit your laugh, monitor your opinions, guard your silence. All in hopes someone out there approves. But here's the truth. The audience is imagined. The applause is mostly in your head. And every time you perform for it, you give away a piece of yourself. Think of Marcus Aurelius. Empires bent to his will. He was the most powerful man in his world. If he wanted, he'd command cheers or fear. But in his private moments, in his journal, which no one else would read, he laid bare his doubts, his struggles, his longing for peace. Seneca, living in riches, sometimes chose voluntary poverty. Not because he needed less, but because he needed less distraction. Epictetus, once a slave, built an entire life teaching people how to stop being ruled by what they cannot control, to focus only on what they can.
I want you to imagine tomorrow morning, your alarm breaks silence. Before the world calls, you stay there, breathing. No phone, no newsfeed, no who reacted to my post? Just your heartbeat, a decision, this morning is mine. The craftsman wakes, but doesn't mirror. He feels his hands. He shapes clay for himself first, before he worries what others will say about the shape. When that first rush comes, someone criticizing you, someone ignoring you, draw a line. That rush, that pull to impress, to defend, stop. Smile, let it pass. You're not required to explain your life to strangers, to people who don't share your day or your bed. Because every explanation is a chain you wrap around yourself. The day you stop feeding the noise, you'll hear something else, your own voice. You'll remember the dreams you buried so long ago. You'll see authentic wanting, distinct from borrowed wants. You'll sense freedom. Not loud, not flashy, but steady. Like a river under ice. There will be forks on the road. One path, you move like everybody's watching. You dress, speak, decide, always asking, will they like this? Will they judge me for that? And so you freeze, you shrink, you play only the small part you're allowed. The other path, you move like nobody's watching. You act from your center, however awkward, however uncertain. You choose what feels true. You take the class you want, wear the clothes that feel like you, speak the words you believe in, even if hands shake with fear. Those small steps build courage. In that kind of life, people might stare. Some will mock. But you'll also draw eyes, not because you perform, but because sincerity is magnetic. When people see someone living from their own heart, it gives them permission to do the same. Your life becomes a quiet kind of rebellion, not against others, but against the part of yourself that begged for applause more than worth. There's a turning point. A moment when you realize, the storm outside doesn't need to command me. My peace doesn't depend on that text back, that like, that praise. You become someone who steadies in the wind. Others' judgments become background noise, you might hear them, but they no longer pull your strings. The greatest risk isn't failure. It's finishing life as that craftsman who polished the mirror so much he forgot what he looked like without it. The greatest courage isn't being seen, it's seeing yourself and being okay even if no one sees the rest. So tonight, before you sleep, ask, what did I give away today for someone who doesn't really see me? What did I do because I feared they might not like me? And then decide, tomorrow, I reclaim that. Reclaim my voice, my appetite, my choices. I begin with silence, silence from the outside, so I can hear inside. I begin by living for someone who stays with me always, me. Omar was always the one people counted on. He helped colleagues with their work, listened to friends' problems late at night, agreed to every event even when he didn't want to go. At first he thought this was kindness. He believed that being available, being nice, would earn him respect, love, significance. But after months, and then years, he felt empty. He noticed he was always tired, anxious, pulled in many directions. His own dreams and needs were pushed aside, because he had little energy left. One evening, Omar was reading Meditations by Marcus Aurelius and paused at a passage where Aurelius reminds himself, confine yourself to the present. Not because past and future don't matter, but because scattering your attention over what you can't fix dilutes your strength for what is here, now. That struck Omar deeply. He saw that much of his mental life was being wasted on regrets, fears, what-ifs, and other people's expectations. Things he couldn't change, or that shouldn't even hold so much power over him. He realized he was letting his energy leak away, worrying about things that can't be fixed, trying to help people who never helped him back, scrolling social media until he felt worse, agreeing to things out of guilt, staying in conversations that left him worse than before. He was carrying drama that belonged to others. He was constantly giving pieces of himself to people in situations that didn't care to hold them well, or didn't even notice. That night, Omar felt uncomfortable. It hurt. But that discomfort was like a warning light. It was his inner wisdom whispering, this can't go on. So he made a decision. He would treat his energy like what it is, finite, valuable, precious. The next day he started small. When someone at work asked him to take on an extra task that didn't align with his goals, he said, I'm sorry, I can't take this on right now. No long apology. No over-explaining. Just a clear boundary. When a friend texted venting about issues every night and draining Omar's mood, he reduced the time he spent there. When scrolling social media felt like it was draining more than giving, he set limits, turned off notifications, left certain apps idle during hours he felt more vulnerable, morning and night. He asked himself before saying yes, will this add value to my life or to someone I care about? If the answer was no, he let it go. At first, some people were surprised. Some guilt followed. But Omar noticed shifts inside him. He had more energy for the work he loved. More focus. He felt calmer, more centered. His relationships with people who really mattered began to deepen, because when he showed up for them, he showed up fully. He wasn't half present or distracted. He wasn't half exhausted. He also noticed something else, his inner voice changed. It used to be loud with fear, what will they think? Am I letting them down? Should I do this so they don't dislike me? But over time, that voice softened. He began to decide from his values, does this align with what I want? Is this harm or help to my peace? He began to respond, rather than react. He guarded his thoughts. He recognized when he was giving away energy to what he couldn't control, and gently redirected it back to what he could. Stoicism teaches something deeply related. You have control over your mind, over your choices, your intentions, your actions, and much less over what others think, what happens outside of you. Energy management, using boundaries, saying no when required, all these are not signs of selfishness, but signs of wisdom. Because only by saving some of your energy can you give your best self, your presence, your love, your work, to the people and things that matter. When you constantly leak energy, there's nothing left to pour into what really moves you. Imagine Omar a year from when he made that decision. He's not perfect. He still misses chances to say no, still feels guilt sometimes. But much of the chaos has quieted. His mental space is larger. His sense of self stronger. He sleeps better. He dreams again. He grows again. You can begin this too. Identify one place where you've been pouring energy out without return. A draining relationship. A habit that leaves you feeling worse. A worry that doesn't change anything. Pull back. Set a clear boundary. Then choose what you'll use that saved energy for, something that aligns with your values, something that lifts you, something that makes you calmer, stronger, more you. Your energy matters. It shapes how alive you feel, how deeply you love, how fully you live. Let your choices honor that. Let your life become one where you don't just exist for others, or for expectations, but show up as your own real self, strong, steady, present. There was a woman named Amina who always lived in echo. She surrounded herself with the same people, read the same kinds of books, listened to the same podcasts, all because they repeated what she already believed. She thought that was safe, that was growth. But one evening, she realized something: she rarely felt challenged. She rarely felt uncomfortable. She rarely learned something that made her heart and mind stretch. One day, Amina messaged a friend she barely saw anymore, someone whose opinion she respected exactly because it was different. That friend asked her a question no one else had asked: what if your belief is only part of the truth? That pulled something in her. She realized she was defending beliefs not because they were tested, but because they felt comfortable. She was living in a bubble of ideas that simply reflected her own face back at her. In the same week, she got a message from her boss that annoyed her. Her first impulse was to respond immediately, to correct, to defend. Her heart raced, her fingers hovered over the keyboard. But then she paused. She took a breath. She remembered something she had read from Epictetus: we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. Instead of reacting, she waited. 15 minutes later, she wrote a calmer message. She sensed the tension ease. She sensed her dignity return. Amina also noticed how many people around her seemed addicted to clout. She saw friends carefully crafting posts, Instagram shots, LinkedIn updates, trying to seem disciplined, successful, wise. She realized that many were performing rather than becoming. She saw what Seneca warned, that things we often chase for show, status, reputation, applause, can distract us from genuine virtue. She thought, what if I measure success by what I become, not by how many people like what I show? Over time, she started trying new things in silence. She read books no one else in her circle had heard of. She questioned assumptions she had inherited: I need everyone to respect me, my worth depends on what other people see. She felt the discomfort when she did this. She questioned her own ideas about worth and respect, about what success meant to her personally. Amina also practiced watching instead of reacting. When someone cut her off in traffic, instead of flipping out, she felt the rush, anger, frustration, wanting to shout. But instead, she observed. She asked, is this worth my peace? What outcome do I want? She imagined how she would feel if she responded with calm. Often she did nothing. Sometimes she spoke a few words without hostility. She noticed those small pauses changed things, not because the world changed, but because she changed. She remembered a Stoic idea: many things are outside your control, other people's words, what they do, how the world behaves. But inside you, in how you respond, what you believe, in what you choose, that is yours. Epictetus taught that some things are in our control, things not in our control. If you try to control what others think, or what happens outside you, you give your power away. If you guard what's inside, your judgments, your reactions, you reclaim your power. Amina built boundaries. She stopped giving energy to conversations that drained her, to people who always took and rarely gave back, to fears that weren't hers to carry. She stopped chasing how things looked on social media, and instead focused on how things felt inside. She protected her inner story. She allowed her growth to happen largely out of sight, in quiet. She allowed mistakes privately, reflection quietly, learning deeply. Over months she felt different. Less anxious. Less pulled by what others thought. More satisfied by what she quietly built: her attention, her peace, her character. She became someone who could listen to criticism without being crushed, who could be wrong and learn, who could care deeply without needing everyone to see it. She realized that her true comeback story, if there ever was one, wasn't about a big reveal. It was about becoming a person who didn't depend on applause. A deeper, quieter strength. When life challenged her, she could stand with calm. She had created internal space, space to observe, space to question, space to respond with meaning rather than reaction. If you look back over your recent days, you might see similar moments. Times you reacted before thinking. Times you chased praise. Times you held on to beliefs without testing them. You can start now. Choose one belief to challenge. In the next upsetting moment, pause, breathe, ask, what outcome do I want? What serves me best? Let your next moves come from that place. When you make those small changes, you become someone anchored in your own truth. Capable of calm. Less at the mercy of others' judgments. Stronger from the inside. There was once a young man, Bilal, who felt like everyone's eyes were always on him. He shared his goals early, posted about every small win, talked openly about every plan. He did this because he believed the applause, the likes, the approval would feed his confidence. But inside, he often felt empty. The applause came, but it faded fast. The encouragement appeared, but so did the fears. What if people stop paying attention? What if I fail? One night, after scrolling through posts of people showing off perfect moments, Bilal felt a pang of envy and shame. He closed his phone, sat in silence, and thought, am I building who I want to be, or just building what looks good to others? He remembered reading a quote from Seneca, be more concerned with your character than with your reputation, for your character is what you are, while your reputation is merely what others think you are. That struck him hard. He realized character was what mattered, what he did when no one saw, not what people saw. Bilal also thought about how quickly he reacted when someone criticized him. The instant someone made a slight or said something hurtful, he would punch back, text, comment, argument. Afterward, he often regretted it. Another Stoic idea came to his mind, from Epictetus, it is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Bilal realized that between what happens and how he responds there is a gap, a moment he can choose differently. He could pause, breathe, observe, then respond wisely. He could stop feeding drama with automatic reaction. So he made a decision, he would protect his growth by doing more work in private. He wouldn't share every step. He'd build silently. At first it felt awkward. When someone asked about his progress, he'd say, I'm working quietly. When he felt proud, he resisted the urge to post. Gradually he saw that the quieter growth felt more stable. It wasn't dependent on others' eyes. He began using his time differently. Instead of spending hours crafting the perfect post, he spent those hours reading, learning skills, reflecting. He stayed up late practicing things no one would ever know about. Mornings he devoted to discipline, writing, planning, with no intention to show off. These moments weren't for content. They were for becoming. There were rumors from people who saw him doing less online. Some said he wasn't ambitious. Some said he was hiding. But Bilal didn't mind, he was making progress unseen. He felt his inner strength grow. He noticed he was more resilient, less hurt when praise didn't come, less shaken by criticism. He found peace in knowing he was doing things not for visibility, but because they mattered. Stoic teachings reinforced him. From Letters from a Stoic, Seneca taught Lucilius to live so that his conscience, not the crowd, is his compass. He worked with inner standards. Marcus Aurelius often reflects on the value of what's internal over what's external. And Epictetus teaches that though we can't control external events, we always have power over how we respond. Over months Bilal's transformation became real. Others saw less of his posts but more of his presence, calmer, focused, grounded. He wasn't louder, but his life felt more meaningful. He still had doubts. He still felt tempted to perform. But now he had a practice. When the urge came, he paused. He asked himself, is this for me, or for them? Does this build me, or just show me? One day he looked back and realized, the most important work always happened away from the audience, in the quiet nights, the private practice, the internal battles nobody saw. He understood his comeback story wasn't going to be told in flashy reveals. It would be told in who he had become, steady, true, aligned. You might be somewhere like Bilal's starting place. Not exactly, but similar. You might feel the pull to show, to get praise, to get validation. Here's what you can try. Choose one goal you'll keep private for now. Let actions build before announcements. In the next moment you're tempted to post about a win, pause. Reflect. Let your internal interests lead. Let no one's approval be necessary for your growth. Because your real transformation deserves protection. What you build in silence becomes sturdy. What you grow away from the public gaze becomes enduring. Let your character, not your reputation, be your legacy. Let your comeback story be written quietly, faithfully, and then revealed by what you have become, not by what you have shown.